Their seventh rounder out of James Madison expected to get the start in the NFC East showdown. In baseball, the Tigers hired A.J. Hinch as their new manager just 3 days after his year-long suspension ended for his part in the Astros sign-stealing scandal. Billionaire Steve Cohen was officially approved by MLB's owners as the new owner of the New York Mets. The sale valued the franchise at between $2.4 and $2.5 billion. That is a record for a baseball team. And former Rockets head coach Mike D'Antoni has joined the staff in Brooklyn as an assistant for the Nets. He'll be reunited with one of his former great players, new Nets head coach Steve Nash. And there you have it. Proof that this is a very, very busy Friday as we get you set here for the next hour. Here on ESPN. Hello.
Hello. Well, with the best player in college football and the #1 team in the country, he remains in isolation. Here's the very latest on Trevor Lawrence as Clemson gets ready to play tomorrow. Last night, Dabo Swinney announced Lawrence tested positive for COVID-19 and is in quarantine. Lawrence said on social media later on his symptoms were relatively mild. This means DJ Uiagalelei should make that. Uiagalelei. You can practice that all you want. We'll get the start tomorrow against Boston College. The true freshman from California was the top-ranked pocket passer in this year's ESPN 300 rankings. He has taken 52 snaps this season. Vegas taking notice. Caesars William Hill had Clemson listed as a 29.5-point favorite prior to Lawrence's announcement, but the line moved 5 points this morning with the Tigers as a 24.5-point favorite coming in. Now, one of the biggest questions is if we look ahead, 8 days from now, will Lawrence be available for next Saturday's big matchup at Notre Dame? ACC coronavirus protocols call for student-athletes to isolate for 10 days following a positive test. Lawrence tested positive on Wednesday. And Holly Rowe will be a part of the ABC broadcast at noon between Clemson and Boston College and joins us now live from Clemson. Holly, you spoke with Dabo today. What stood out from that conversation about the situation with Lawrence and this team?
Well, number one, Dabo did not want to give us a scientific timeline. He said the only timeline that he cares about is Saturday at noon against Boston College and getting that win. But what he did say is that they do know the source where Trevor Lawrence was in contact and resulted in a positive COVID test, and it was not from here, meaning this football facility behind me. Even though Trevor Lawrence tested positive, Dabo found out Thursday around noon. He did practice with the team Wednesday afternoon. And Dabo said that he is not at this time concerned about a further outbreak, but they think they've got it contained, and they will know more because the team does one more round of testing before they would play a game on Saturday.
And we know, and you know, Lawrence's health is the most important thing, but what does the path look like for the junior to face #4 Notre Dame next weekend?
Well, we did ask Greg McElroy, my analyst, asked Dabo, just big picture thinking, what is your policy on if a player hasn't practiced, could he play in a game? And Dabo said it depends on who the player is. If it was a freshman wide receiver who didn't really know what he was doing and hadn't practiced, he probably wouldn't play. But if it's a Trevor Lawrence who knows what he's doing, even though he hadn't practiced, he probably could play. He's done that before with players in the past like C.J. Spiller. So even if Trevor Lawrence is cleared from protocols, does not practice, there is still a chance that he could play in that game. But Clemson is much more worried about Boston College and their terrific, very improved defensive team that takes the field here Saturday at noon.
DJ Uiagalelei, we will see this man tested. He is a prize recruit. Cannot wait. Noon tomorrow on ABC. Holly Rowe live from Clemson.
Developing story in the NBA as new Nets head coach Steve Nash filling out his staff with some familiar names, including one of his former head coaches, Mike D'Antoni. Fresh off his 4-year stint with the Rockets, D'Antoni joins forces with Nash for the third time. Remember, he coached Nash during the beginning of his prime years in Phoenix, 2004 to 2008, and then they were in LA together with the Lakers, 2012 to 2014. So let's focus on the Phoenix part, though. With the Suns, a lot of success. 4 seasons together. Nash was a 2-time MVP during that time, and the team won more than 70% of their games. They also ran the memorable 7 seconds or less offense, but just could never quite get over the hump and make it to the NBA Finals. Joined now by our insider, Adrian Wojnarowski. And Woj, D'Antoni, of course, potentially, he was in line for that Sixers opening before it went to Doc Rivers. So why did he decide to join the Nets, Steve Nash's staff, as an assistant?
That's right, Sage, and he could have as easily reunited with Daryl Morey. in Philadelphia. And if Doc Rivers had not been let go with the Clippers, it's very likely Mike D'Antoni would have been the next head coach with the Sixers. But Doc Rivers became available, and then the marketplace essentially dried up on Mike D'Antoni. He had this offer from Steve Nash to come to Brooklyn, and Nash had been pretty persistent with him to try to get him to do it. And I don't think there's another assistant coaching job in the NBA that Mike D'Antoni would have accepted, but listen, he knows what Steve Nash has meant to him, meant to his coaching career, and a team in Brooklyn that has a chance to compete for a championship. He's going to go join Nash there and run it back again with him.
Yeah, a fascinating group of coaches and players there in Brooklyn as D'Antoni joins the 7th NBA team of his 30-year coaching career. Woj, last week you reported that the NBA was discussing the possibility of starting next season before Christmas. That's less than 2 months away. Where do things stand right now?
As we speak, the NBA and the Players Association are negotiating that, and it almost certainly will extend through the weekend into next week. The league hasn't moved off that. They want a 72-game regular season that starts before Christmas and finishes before the Olympics in mid-July. The union has talked about the idea of starting in January, but financially, the difference between the two is steep. The players are already going to take a big financial hit next year because of the lack of fans in arenas, the fact that revenue will be down. I think the NBA is still confident that they can get the season started prior to Christmas. There's still more time here for the league and the union to negotiate it.
Lots still to talk about. That is our Adrian Wojnarowski with the latest from the league. Thank you.
Thanks.
How about this story? A.J. Hinch is back in baseball, now the new manager of the Detroit Tigers. The decision comes just 3 days after Hinch's one-year suspension for his role in the Astros sign-stealing scandal ended after the World Series. Of course, that topic was discussed when he was introduced today.
We do have conversations to have with players and coaches, and I've done that throughout this season, not in this position, but absolutely, those are tough conversations, and I will have them one by one. I will have them as a team. There's a clear message of that's part of my story and part of my career. It's not a part of the players that I'm going to be managing. And I'm sorry that they're going to have to deal with it, and then again that we're going to have to talk about it. But that is our reality, because wrong is wrong, and it was very wrong. And I'll make sure that everybody knows that I feel responsible because I was the manager, and it was on my watch.
Takes over a team that has finished last in the AL Central in 3 of the past 4 seasons. For much more on the Hinch hiring, baseball insider Jeff Passan joining us. So, Jeff, Hinch didn't have to wait long. What are those around the league saying about this decision by the Tigers?
Yeah, and I got to be honest, it's not that much of a surprise. I mean, despite the fact that A.J. Hinch was the manager for the Astros team that got caught cheating during its World Series winning season in 2017. He has a lot of friends in the game. He has a lot of people who like him in the game. And because of that, he was likely to get opportunities, whether it was going to be managing, whether it was going to be in a front office. He's been in different roles in the game, and seeing A.J. Hinch back this quickly is not a surprise, just as it would not be a surprise to see Alex Cora, the former Boston Red Sox manager, back quickly. There's